Good day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and as always with me today is Mr. Jake Peters. We are PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation-centered video game podcast. This is a show where we share our feelings about the current state of video gaming world. Before we get into the show, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and visit us on Twitter and Tumblr. If you want to find us and make fun of our trophy lists on the PSN, you can find me at anchorlist_81 and Mr. Jake Peters at JakeSaw01. All right, episode 138. Here we go, Jake. What are you playing this week? What are you into? Anything?
Just still playing Final Fantasy VII. That's pretty much it. Although I did play, if you want to talk about just some random things I've played, I did play, I downloaded Serious Sam 3 on my PC, and I played that for a little bit, that game is fucking ridiculous. If you've never played any of the Serious Sam games and you like Doom, you'll love Serious Sam. It's a little bit more campy, like a little bit more. Serious Sam is kind of like if you mixed Doom and Duke Nukem. It's kind of like what a Serious Sam is, and they're just so fucking fun. We used to, when we were kids, we used to play. When I say kids, I mean like in high school. To have LAN parties, and we would play the first Serious Sam game, and I think even the second one. That might have been in college, but the second encounter. Not Serious Sam 2, Serious Sam, the second encounter, which was like I don't know if it's a second game, but it was still the first game. I don't know. It's weird. It was just like new levels and stuff. I used to play those at the LAN parties all the time, and they were really fun. So I played that, and then a couple times played. Have you ever heard of like the Jackbox games? Like You Don't Know Jack and shit like that?
Yeah, I was just talking to my brother. He said he actually bought that recently so they could play with some friends, do some stuff online with some friends and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
So Sarah and I have been doing that a little bit with family, like because that's not the type of game that I would really play. Like if I was going to play a game with you online or something, it would be like a fucking video game. It's something fun to play with like family and stuff. So we played it with my brother and my sister-in-law, and we played it with like my mother-in-law and father-in-law and Sarah's sister. Sarah's my wife. Fun, it's kind of interesting. So we basically, what we did was I bought it on Steam on my computer, basically ran the game. You do we did Google Hangouts, and on Google Hangouts, you can share your screen. So basically I just share my screen with the game, right? And
so
then,
and
then, whenever you start a game, it generates a code, and everybody just on their phone types the code in to the Jackbox website. And then everybody uses their phone as the controller, no matter where you are in the world. So, and it's all real time. So it's actually really, really well put together. There are some technical hiccups where occasionally a phone won't register or something like that. But for the most part, it honestly works really well. It's pretty surprising. And there's some fun stuff in there. Like the one of the game that I think is...
It's pretty much the way that my brother said that he and Zach had played it with some friends of theirs. I don't even know exactly what they were doing. They were doing something similar. He said he was I think they were FaceTiming this screen to their friends, which was an interesting take on it. But I believe the Zoom way that you and Sarah did it sounds more effective.
Yeah. So basically, because Google Hangouts is really good for this type of stuff. So obviously, everybody who wants to be on the game, you all get on the conversation for Google Hangouts. As the host, or I guess anyone can do this, when you go to share your screen, you can actually choose what window you have open on your computer. And it will, for example, when we had the game running, I didn't have it maximized. It was just kind of like a small window on the screen that had the game on it. But in Google Hangouts, I can say, I want this window to be what I'm sharing. And on everybody else's computer, it's full screen for them. So I could still see the chat and the screen running at the same time, but everybody else just sees the game as it's playing because that's what I'm sharing, and it allows you to do you'll hear the sounds from the game and everything like that, as well as everybody's conversation is all happens real time. It works really well, surprisingly. The first time we played it, when I played it with my brother, it was Zoom. And the only problem with Zoom is you have a 1 hour timeout where you have to restart the Zoom session. So if anybody out there wants to try and do this, it's
available on PSN also. So this is why it's relevant. Right. Jackbox is available.
But the thing about doing it on PSN is the only way that you can really do it as a team or to share the game is you'd have to basically live stream it and then everybody would have to like get on their computer and log into your live stream. And then
do they not have a mobile app that you can see what's going on the main host or anything?
I don't think I don't think there's any way to do it on PS4 where you can like share your screen with other people and have a conversation. That's everybody. So the only way you would be able to do it if you were live streaming like on Twitch or YouTube, everybody else on their PS4s is in a chat party with you at the same time watching your live stream. So, I mean, it's a really inelegant way of doing it. It makes much more sense to do it on the PC is just built better for doing this type of thing. I'm sure you could even do it on Mac too, Mac as well. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I mean, there's some games that are pretty interesting. Like one of them is this t-shirt building game. It sounds so stupid, but it's actually really funny. Essentially, the way that it starts is that everybody draws just 3 random pictures. You just draw whatever you want. You get 3 pictures that you draw, and you have like 90 seconds to draw each drawing. And then after that, you get 90 seconds to just make up as many random phrases or words or whatever as you want. And you just keep like submitting them, right? You can just say anything like, I love cheese, or the world is flat, or whatever. And then what happens is that after that, the next section of the game is that everybody gets on their phone, choose between combinations of everybody's pictures and everybody's phrases, and you come up with a t-shirt where it's like a picture and then a saying underneath of it.
Okay, yeah.
And it creates some really funny stuff, especially if you're playing.
Yeah, those games are really fun.
Yeah, especially if you're playing with people that literally have no like filter or tact whatsoever. Whenever I was playing with my brother and sister-in-law the first time, it was just, because nobody there cared. We were all children basically. So, right. I was just getting hammered while we were playing this game and
just doing something incredible,
just drawing. It was just drawing just all these poop pictures and just dick pics and all this stuff. And it like turned out to be,
that doesn't sound
because you're drawing
like
when you're drawing it on your phone too, everything comes out so wonky and just shitty looking that like, it's so funny. It is a really good time. There's some other stuff like this other game called Quiplash, which is kind of like Quiplash is kind of like apples to apples or like Cards Against Humanity, but instead of like having cards, you actually make up the sayings yourself, right? Stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't mean to go on about fucking Jackbox for 10 minutes, but.
Well, you're stoked about it. Well, you see it all the time in advertisements. It's always on sale on the PSN store. Ads are always kind of ridiculous and kind of satirical, and it knows what it is. But it does look like a good party game, really. And what better way to spend quarantine than playing games like you and I even were playing.
I was just going to say that the only thing about it is that there's like 8 different party packs, and you can't like. I would like if they gave you the option to just kind of like each party pack has 5 games in it. 5 or 6 games. Right. And I wish that you could like go in and let's say across all 8 party packs, you could just, a la carte choose which games you like, because there are inevitably games in each party pack that I just don't care about. So, and when each party pack is $20 or whatever the hell it is, doesn't sound like a lot, but a good night or 2 of that and you got your money out of it. Sometimes it's like, I just sucks because I never use this portion of the game or whatever. But pro tip for those interested after listening to this extended exposition about this
is
game,
the Jackbox podcast now.
Is that if you're going to buy it on Steam, buy it from, I think if you go to the Jackbox website and buy a Steam code from them, it's actually like $10 cheaper than buying it directly on the Steam store. So you buy it on the Jackbox website, they send you a code, and then you just put it into Steam and download it. And it's like,
you get it for cheaper than buying it straight from the store.
I think it was like $16 as opposed to like $25 on Steam. So
yeah, that's a bargain deal for a game that's going to, like you said, bring a couple nights of people together and having fun. And there is something to be said for games that are played around a table, or where it's not, it's more a collaborative thing. And like a game like that, like I was mentioning, I started to mention before, you, my brother, and some other people, Sarah and whatnot, we've been playing Descent. And it's been really fun. We've been having board game nights at my place, and with the quarantine, we really haven't been able to do that. But Sarah came up with a way to play online, and that's been enjoyable. And there's something even to what we were doing the other night. It's more enjoyable sometimes to do that than sit the PlayStation Network and game with people you don't know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sure.
There's just a sense, just a sense of communication. And even though I know my brother and I get pretty heated sometimes with stupid minutia of rules, because he's a gaming nerd, like a board game nerd, like he's really into it. It's still fun. I mean, I look back after our arguments and I'm like, yeah, that was funny. We were arguing about, I don't even know what we were talking about before, like the bucket.
Oh,
Can a bucket of water be used more than once to put out flames in a burning cabin? So stupid conversations like that the rule book doesn't explain. So those, sometimes it can be redundant and tedious to sit and listen to that, but you're in the argument, like you really want to like win.
My biggest thing about that is like, I really enjoy playing, but my two comments are, one is that like the way we're doing it now is we're using that Roll20 website, which it's amazing that even works. But there are just some some technical things about it that I fucking hate, like how you move stuff around, the fact that you have to like select a different setting, whether or not you want to pan the map or you want to select stuff. To me,
you should better right click or left click or something
stupid.
Like that.
And then like there's some other stuff like the UI is just a little wonky on it, but I get it. Like Roll20 was kind of just general design to be able to play tabletop games online. And it's not really meant for a game like Descent. Like Sarah had to make all that shit, which is really impressive.
It's really impressive. Yeah, that's why I think we should try to do the second encounter, even if like maybe I'll try to make the map for it or something. But she put so much time into it just to play one time just seems ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
but
it's cool. I just, my biggest thing about playing those games is like me, and I know that it's going to be hard. It would be hard to convince someone like Seth and maybe even yourself to do this. But like, as soon as you encounter a problem where we don't know what the rules are and the rules aren't clear, immediately make a house rule. Everybody vote on it and then go forward with that. Write it down in a notebook if you have to, so we can go back to it. But
I don't disagree with that. That's a good plan.
Like the problem, and sometimes it seems like I get annoyed whenever we play these games, and it's only because like we argue for a half an hour about whether or not you can fill a fucking bucket, and it's like, we could have that's part of the reason why the encounters when we play these games, it's like the encounter should take about 90 minutes and it takes us 4 hours because we're arguing about dumb shit.
But you can't move through, you can't walk diagonal. There's no line of sight there. No, you can't. There is.
So that's part of the fun though, I guess, for some people. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Well, it's not fun for me, but I think I look back fondly on those little debates. When you're in it, it's frustrating because I can sense that some people just want the game to proceed, but there's this hurdle now in front of us. And usually the hurdle gets laid down. And I'm not casting stones at my brother. I love him to death. I want to say they come from him. I'm just questioning, well, if I'm knocked out, technically the rule book doesn't say that my song stops playing. And it's like, you're knocked out. Like, how is your song playing? Well, I don't think the game was designed that way, Fred. I don't think it was designed that way that the song stops playing because it doesn't say that. And it's like, okay, let me look it up. And while he does have valid points that it's not explicitly stated in the handbook, whatever, I digress. Let's talk about some video games. We're 16 minutes into the podcast. Talked a little bit about the Jackbox Collection, Serious Sam. Jake, I got on the PlayStation Network, there's a sale right now on the entire Life is Strange 2 season, and it was like $15.
Yeah.
I don't know if we both, looking back, I believe you and I both had a lot of positive things to say about the first Life is Strange, right?
Oh, I loved it. We both enjoyed it. Honestly say that other than the first season of The Walking Dead, it's better than any of the other Telltale games I've played. Like, as far as like something in that vein, in that genre, right? I think there's the whole story, the story as a whole. Like, if you include the expansion of the DLC or Before the Storm, whatever the fuck it's called, it's so really compelling. Good. With the exception of, like I said, that fucking first season of The Walking Dead, which is just so amazing. Nothing will ever beat that, right?
Trailblazing.
Probably not, right? But
Life is Strange 2. Let me tell you this. Dude, Life is Strange 2 is exactly as good right now, if not better than the first Life is Strange. Let me just say this. It starts off in the very, how they used in Life is Strange some indie artists and stuff. Like, you could like walk around and I forget her name, Chloe's room or your room or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you could put on the tape player and just kind of lay back on your bed and you could hear her thoughts. She would think out loud. And it sounds so stupid talking about it, but when you are playing the game, it harkens back to actually like what it felt like to be like a teenager. And like, it was really weird, even though it was a girl and even though it was like different issues than what I had growing up, like there are definitely a lot of common threads and I could relate a lot with that game in that regard. And I think one of the songs you put on was a Bright Eyes song or something. Season 2, episode 1, or I should say Life is Strange 2, episode 1 starts off with Listomania by Phoenix. And I was like, this game's going to be amazing. It's just going to be so good. And dude, it's great. Like the first episode, like blew my mind. Like, and granted, being quarantined and stuff, I don't know that like the content was maybe the happiest content. Like it kind of left me in kind of a dour, sour mood. But not because the game was bad, but just because it resonated with me way more than I thought it was going to. And I don't know if you know much about what the story is, but you play an older kid, probably in high school. I think he's 16, 17 years old, and he has a younger brother, right? So without spoiling anything, it's essentially their journey. For one reason or another, you end up having to care for your little brother. And it's this incredible journey. And I think it's going to be a cross-country journey the way it is. And with the Life is Strange games or whatever, I never played that standalone game. It was in that universe. It was canon with Life is Strange. Did you ever play that? It was like the Boy Wonder or talking about Curious Kid or what was that thing called? Do you know what that was called?
Yeah, it was.
I guess it doesn't matter, but it was free.
Captain Awesome or something. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah. It was still canon in that world. All of these games, there is a little bit of hint of supernatural stuff. So without going into spoilers about Life is Strange 2, aside from the fact that I've only played the first episode and I played it from beginning to end and I thoroughly enjoyed it, there is still that element of like, whoa, like that's crazy, but it's believable. In a weird way, It's believable. So if you guys, listeners, haven't checked out the Life is Strange games, man, if you like the storytelling games where your choices have impacts on the outcome of a game or whatever, man, Life is Strange 2, Jake, I highly recommend it. I think it's on sale for 1 or 2 more days, the whole thing for like $15. Like man, I'm so happy I got that. I was tossing, it was either going to be that or Assassin's Creed Origins for $15 or $18 or something. And I went with Life is Strange 2, and I'm glad I did.
I was just going to say, I'm definitely interested in playing it. And I've talked about playing it with Sarah a few times in the past, since, I don't know, Christmas or whatever. I've talked about getting it and trying it out. Just never got around to it. Those types of games are like those types of games where like I'm really hesitant to start playing them. And then as soon as I start playing it, I just want to play it until it's done. And it's so weird. Yeah,
they're real gripping. News, Jake. There's some brand new news. There's a new studio called Gravity Well. It's a brand new developer. It's made up of former employees who've worked on Titanfall 2, Call of Duty 4, and Apex Legends. I don't know if you care about that, but that was just recently announced. There was something up on Push Square about the PS Store going down in China indefinitely due to security issues, which is strange.
I wonder if it's related to the
Naughty Dog hack?
Naughty Dog hack, yeah.
Speaking of Naughty Dog, Last of Us 2 got a brand new trailer. I didn't watch it. I'm staying dark. I was afraid by even looking at the trailer, I might see comments or something that like alludes to the spoiler. We're way too close to the spoilers that have been released. So I don't know. Did you watch it?
No, and I don't plan on it.
Good. All right. We'll have a lot to talk about that game when it comes out. Are you pre-ordering that like digitally? Or are you going to try to get
I'll probably pre-order it like the day before it comes out just so that it's on my PS4 when I wake up in the morning. But yeah, because I'm going to get it digitally. I have no desire to get a physical copy. So it doesn't really matter if I pre-order it now or wait till the day it comes out.
Right. No, I got you. On top of that, Xbox Series X had a presentation. Did you read anything about that?
All I read was
they promised like a ton of gameplay.
Yeah, apparently it was a huge disappointment. That's the only thing I know about it.
There were trailers for some new games. Dirt 5 from Codemasters. They had a trailer for that. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. I think that's by Paradox Interactive. I don't know. Scarlet Nexus got a trailer. It's a Bandai Namco game. There was a game that has nothing to do with the Xbox Series X, or these are all third-party publishers. So all these games, while it might seem they were exclusive to Xbox, they should also be available on PS5 or PlayStation. However, I saw a trailer for this game called Ghost Runner online, and it's a PC game. And usually we don't talk too much about PC stuff, but it looked like a cyberpunk Mirror's Edge, crazy samurai game. Did you see the trailer for Ghost Runner?
No, I haven't.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's really good. Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath is releasing on May 26th, my birthday, which is kind of fun. And then I recently saw that there's a new Bubble Bobble game, which is crazy, coming out real soon. Did you ever play Bubble Bobble on Nintendo?
No, I've never played that either.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's such a good game. Anyways, dude, the Vampire Masquerade game, I think we are having some connections as you seem a little delayed, but Vampire the Masquerade was, I believe the first one came out, and then it was based, I think, remember Magic the Gathering was like really big, but right around that time there was a card game much like Magic called Vampire the Masquerade. I want to say that this is based off of that old card game, but I know this is a first person game. I don't know how the first one did though.
I never played it. I don't know. I think it was probably spelled VAMPYR, I think is how they spell those games. I played some of those card games when I was growing up, like Magic, obviously, and then Legend of the Five Rings or something. It was more like a samurai kind of based type game.
Oh, wow.
And which was pretty cool. No, I never played the Vampire Masquerade stuff. I did a lot of, you remember that fantasy cards and comics in Meadville?
Yeah, dude.
So I used to go in there all the time and buy like miniatures and dumb shit like that. I mean, it's not dumb. I mean, it's actually really cool. I wish a lot of that stuff still existed, but
yeah,
the
closest
but
thing
I never did get into the Vampire one.
So I sent you a trailer to watch for a platforming game called Hunt Down. You said you watched that. Are you interested in that game at all? Like, that trailer really got me amped up.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in the game. It looks really cool. I mean, it just looks like they're just leaning in hard on like the 80s campiness. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, it looks really, really interesting. It's almost like a Far Cry Blood Dragon kind of thing, where it's just like this super 80s, like it almost looks kind of like a cross between I don't know if you want to call it side scroller shooter kind of games mixed with like a Hotline Miami or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of what it looks like. I don't know if that's how it's going to play, but it does look really cool.
I thought it looked really neat. One thing about it is the way the trailer presented itself. It was like, okay, you're like these hunters, these bounty hunters or whatever, and you're mercenaries, you're just doing your job for cash. But they're like all these gangs. The gangs remind me a lot of the gangs from that movie, The Warriors. Like one set of gangs, I think in this trailer were like, and I don't know what they were. They were all like hockey players or something. And another one, they looked like punk rockers, and they were like driving like this beat up car, and like looked like something like the Dreadnoks from G.I. Joe or something. But yeah, and you looks like there's some character selection or whatever. So anyways, man, I thought that game looked cool. That's one of the ones on the list of PSN games coming out this week. We got Pixel Rip 1995 VR coming out. Ion Fury. Hunt Down is one we're talking about. Emma Lost in Maury's. I don't know what that is. Fault, Milestone 1, Island Saver, Pong Quest, Patata Fairy Flower, Tactic Cool, Champs, Thy Sword, which is a hack and slash rogue. It has procedurally generated levels, and that's a cross-buy for PS4 and Vita. It's kind of nice to still see PlayStation 4 and Vita getting cross-buy. I heard something about the ESRB are changing their charge, like what they're charging to rate a game in like another country or something for Vita games or something. It's not that very specific and weird.
Yeah, it's not the ESRB.
Who is
it? PEGI in Europe.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then they're worried that that's going to have a fallout, a negative effect on games. Jake, I don't have a lot to talk about except, and it sucks that you haven't played Life is Strange 2. I was kind of hoping you had, so we could talk about that first episode, but I don't want to spoil anything. Is there anything catching your eye this week, or what's your game plan for gaming? Are you doing anything kind of fun in the video game world, or are you just kind of lay low and keep at the Jackbox collection? Or Serious Sam.
Yeah, my plan is pretty much to just play until I finish Final Fantasy VII, which I'm kind of taking my time with it because the next release probably will never come out, or if it does, it'll be like 10 years from now. So I'm just kind of taking my time with it and really enjoying that. And then when that's done, I might bounce back into Doom Eternal a little bit and maybe go after some of the stuff that I didn't finish whenever I play. Like I finished the campaign and stuff, but some of like the challenges and things like that are just really fun to play. And then I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What I'll do next. I might go after something like a Resident Evil 3 remake or something like that. That is just something that's kind of up my alley, but I kind of shrugged off just because I didn't really feel like playing it.
Not going to take a lot of time to beat either, right?
Yeah. And then
we're at that sweet spot where The Last of Us comes out in June, so you don't want to dive into like a new huge Ni no Kuni style game right now because you've got about 3 or 4 weeks before The Last of Us 2 hits. So something to think about.
Yeah, so I'm not going to probably do anything huge. If I play anything, it's probably going to be a lot of this, like either bite-sized stuff or it'll be something that like I can just quit anytime. Like Doom is something that I can just quit anytime. But one of the things I haven't done yet that I might do is actually play back through The Last of Us and Left Behind because I don't
see. I did that.
It's been when did The Last of Us came out in 2013. So it's been 7 years since I've played that game. So I'll probably maybe play that before the second one comes out.
Yeah, what I didn't do was play Left Behind. That's a good idea. Play Left Behind next. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Man, what a great game. Speaking of The Last of Us 2, I did put up a playthrough on our YouTube channel of me just playing through that entire game. So if you don't have it or you don't feel like playing it or you just want to watch it in the background, you could do it there. I didn't die a whole lot. I played it on easy. And I did put up, in this quarantine time, I came up with a YouTube intro little thing for our podcast for videos we put. Now, Jake, you don't really post anything on our YouTube site. It'd be cool, like if we could figure out how to put some decent content on there. I took a lot of time and I made I made a how-to on how to get the perfect trophy in Streets of Rage 4. I didn't steal the video or anything, but I stole the mechanics of how to do it from another guy I watched on YouTube. I go into detail on how to do it and show you the video clip. And if you're having trouble with that trophy, because it's really hard, you have to play one of those Streets of Rage levels, Jake, without taking a single damage, fighting the boss and everything. Yeah, it's really, really hard. So
wow,
it took me probably 10 to 15 tries to do it. I put a video up of my successful run. So if you guys want to check that out, you can check it out. I don't really have anything else. You guys are welcome to write the show at psthisisawesome@gmail.com. This is a bit of a shorter episode. I'm expecting some news to drop soon. We're going to get some PS5 news here pretty soon, I would imagine. It's just a matter of time till the floodgates start open. Right now, it seems like Microsoft did a little bit of they tripped on stage up there, and they've kind of upset a few people. It would be a good opportunity right now for Sony to strike a little bit if they have something to show. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get something, especially if they're still planning on releasing the PS5 in the fourth quarter. We might get something here this week, next week, something about the PS5. I wouldn't be surprised. Jake, do you have any comment on that? Do you think that we're going to hear more about the PS5 soon?
I have to imagine that they're going to announce something within, the next, I don't know, a few weeks. I would guess. I mean, they can't put it off too much longer. You would think by the end of May for sure. That they would have to say something. I mean, even if it's just like, hey, we're still releasing it this year, and here's some games that we're going to put out that are like exclusive, like first party PlayStation games, or like some indies or something like that, and say like, hey, just keep looking out for the PS5 because it's, it is still coming out, because at this point I think they're just being quiet so they don't say something stupid.
They're going to let Xbox take all these first steps and see.
But at some point they can't just be like, oh, hey.
Right. I think they're just going to.
They can't be like, oh, hey, the next X or PS5 is coming out, but here's all the information about it like a month before it comes out. Like, that's not going to fly. They got to build some kind of hype for it, even if there is going to be a limited availability
even if it's just
at launch.
Seeing the console.
So I think that they're probably within the next few weeks going to have to say,
yeah, something. Like even if we can just see the console, man, that would be nice. That would be a nice little thing. Like, surely They have that.
Yeah, they got to show the console, and they got to show everything at this point. I mean, last year, whenever it was around E3 that we knew, not last year, last generation changed. It was around E3 when by the time E3 rolled around, we saw everything. And that's in a few weeks would be like E3 time, even though there's no E3 this year. That's like about the time frame that we got everything last time. So I have to imagine that by the end of the month, it's going to be about that time for them to come out and be like, look, here's your fucking console. This is what it looks like. Here's your, the accessories that are coming out for. They're going to have to like just show everything, because there's not going to be that much time between now and then to really say, like, to kind of do the slow rollout like they did the last time, because they already showed the controller. So they're going to have to come out and say, like, here's the release date. Here's the price. Here's the games. Here's going to be your big games at launch, whatever it is, Killzone or the next.
What if we get a new Resistance game?
Racing game or whatever, the next Drive Club. That'd be awesome. I'd be down for a new Resistance game. I'd honestly even be down for them to just remaster the first three. I think that'd be awesome if they're like, hey, a launch game. We're not ready with Resistance 4, but like as a launch game, here's Resistance 1, 2, and 3 remastered and fully upscaled and everything for with trophies and all the shit good for the new console. Yeah, I never played the first one, but from what I understand, it was really hard. And but I would enjoy going back through it. I mean, I played Resistance 2 and I really enjoyed it, and Resistance 3 I thought was even better. I think that it's time, if they're going to revisit that franchise, there's not a better time to do it than, especially if they're not going to launch with a Killzone game. If they do launch with a Killzone game, it doesn't really make sense for them to also launch with a Resistance game. But if they're not launching with a Killzone game and they were to just like surprise, here's Resistance, it would be fucking awesome. I mean, they don't have that many first party offerings in terms of the first person shooter space. So if they were to come out and say like, hey, instead of launching like with Killzone, like we've done in the past, here's fucking Resistance, it would probably make a bigger splash than it has in the past. And it might be able to like breathe some life into that franchise, which historically has not, done super well.
Well, it was always competing with Killzone is the problem. Resistance always competed with Killzone. So Sony had these two, and I think they put their money where Killzone was. But the problem with Killzone was when the PS4 launched with Killzone, that game it was good for what it was, but it was really, really hard. And I don't looking back, like, I don't know many people who still talk about that game. And that was the only Killzone game to come out on PS4. So I don't know. I think you're better to hedge your bets on a Resistance. It just makes sense, man. There's a whole world there with Resistance. It's kind of interesting. It's still based on Earth. There's like the Chimera, and all the weapons were really awesome in Resistance. I remember the weapons being really interesting, and they weren't your typical, okay, here's a shotgun, here's a marksman rifle. There were a lot of really cool, interesting weapons where like you could tag like an enemy and then just shoot, and then the bullets would go straight towards it for a little bit of time. I remember that game being really, really cool, especially Resistance 3, like the story with I think his name was Nathan Hale.
That was Resistance 1 and 2. Resistance 3 was that Carmichael guy or whatever. It was like the other guy in the platoon.
But it's crazy Nathan that Hale, I remember the name of the guy from Resistance 1 and 2 when I only played those games through one time. But that story kind of resonated with me. I think Resistance would make a really cool movie also. It would be a great movie franchise. It'd be like the new Alien or something.
Yeah, that would be really, really cool. I mean, I don't know how they would do it to kind of like keep it. The problem with making games into movies is that games usually are so long and involved that like try to distill it down into a movie form tends to kind of make it bad by default, because you just bleach all the experience. Yeah, you bleach all the personal investment out of it. And so, like something like The Last of Us, for example, I am a firm believer that, could they make a Last of Us TV show? That they're making a Last of Us TV show on HBO or sometime or whatever. But could it be good? Yeah, it definitely could be good. But there's no fucking way. I would literally hedge my ass on the fact that there is no fucking way that TV show will impact me even remotely close to the way that the first Last of Us game impacted me the first time I played.
Well, it might
There's
not,
no
but maybe to someone
way.
who's never played the game, it might.
Yeah, I guess I get it, but like,
I think it's a bad idea.
Time,
just to be clear on that, I think it's also a bad idea to do it. But I don't know. Why not? Well, I mean, the problem with Hollywood right now is that no one has an original idea anymore. They take a good idea that was good at one point and they try to expand upon it. Walking Dead wasn't good enough to be a comic. They had to turn it into a freaking TV show, and it overstayed its welcome. Now they're making a Walking Dead movie. Terminator. How many Terminators do we have? They made the last Terminator. I think one Christian Bale was in it. Then they said, "Oh, that one sucks, so we're not going to count that one. We're going to do a new one with Sarah Connor, and that's actually going to be Terminator 4, technically." And it's just like, someone make something new and original for the screen and quit taking other people's ideas. It just drives me crazy. Hollywood is nothing but remakes and retellings of old stories in a new way, like Grimm's fairy tales. They're redoing, like Disney did all those redos of like, oh, we're going to do a Lion King that's like with real lions, or it looks more realistic, or we're going to do, I'm just so sick of it. I just want to watch something new, man. And I think that's why I like video games so much, dude.
Yeah, I mean, nostalgia is in vogue right now. And, the video game industry is not exactly immune to this. I mean, how many video games coming out are like sequels or are, remakes of old games and stuff like that, or the content of the game is like playing off of
we just talked about that hunted game. Yeah, that's kind of like the same. It's like a trope. I get it. And Blood Dragon was a trope, and we've had 4 Uncharted's, and actually technically 5 if you want to count the Vita version, and then Lost Legacy, that could be a standalone. So 6 Uncharted. There's rumors that they're making another one, not Naughty Dog, but another studio. So yeah, how long can you do it, and when is enough? I mean, we're even getting a Last of Us 2, and I was really against the idea of a Last of Us 2 after I played The Last of Us 1. What else can you do with this story? How do you top that? The Walking Dead series on the video games. Yeah, I get it. But at least with video games, there still is a semblance of creativity. You're still getting some kind of interesting stories. I don't know the last time that I've watched a movie where I've been like, wow, that was really awesome. Like, I don't know the last time I had that experience watching a movie. I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be honest. There are very few movies that I even care to watch anymore. Like I couldn't tell you the last time, I'll be honest with you. I couldn't tell you the last time I actually sat down and watched a movie. It's been a while. I mean, I know that there are good movies, but I don't know. I think part of it too is just committing myself to sitting down for
I get stir crazy. I understand that
to watch a movie. I even have a hard time sitting down. Dude, I can't even sit down for a fucking hour and play a video game. How am I supposed to sit down
and not
for 2 hours
do anything with your
movie?
hands, right? Yeah. Or like stimulate your brain somehow, or try to solve puzzles, or I totally get it. I want to do. I talked to you briefly about this, and maybe we can throw it out to the listeners. I wouldn't mind starting to do like a top 5 list or a top 10 list of different categories. I've been watching the PlayStation channel, the PlayStation, what is it, Access maybe, or PlayStation something, and they do these top whatever lists, and they're really comical. I'm not saying we're going to try to do anything funny, but it got me thinking that like there's a lot of different things that you and I could fill the show up with when we're slow with news. Like right now, there's not really a whole lot of news. I mean, there's a couple of games that came out. You and I aren't playing anything new. Nothing really resonates with us right now. I might get that hunted game depending on what it costs, or hunt down. Sorry. And, but like, what would be like a cool top 5 or a cool top 10 that maybe we could discuss? We could do like a top 5 underrated VR games. You haven't really been playing VR. That would be tough for you. What are the top 5 games we would like to see a remaster of? That might be kind of fun, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely can do that. And I think that another key thing is hopefully in the future we can. I know that the listeners don't know this, but we're recording on at fucking peak internet streaming
in
time,
the quarantine. They're throttling internet
shit like that. We're like, so like they're throttling the internet, so we're getting like lag and shit like that. So I think we really need to try and stick with doing our recordings on like the mornings on weekends or something like that to try and make sure that they're as good a quality as possible. But I do agree with you that it would be kind of cool to do some like listy kind of conversational videos, or not videos, just content, kind of a feature on the podcast or whatever, even if we don't do it every week, just something to kind of build on. I think that, as long as we decide on a topic in enough in advance that we can maybe think about it before we actually do the show, because I'd hate to be like, because I don't know if you remember when we were doing the podcast regularly before, it got to a point where it was just like, okay, we're doing the podcast today, and I just fucking would just scrub the internet to talk about 20 minutes before we did the show to look for news and stuff. So like, I don't want the podcast to get back to the way that it was then, because I want to make sure that if we're going to do something or add a feature in or whatever, that it's actually something of quality, and it's not just us just regurgitating something every week because we said we're going to do it. And I want to make sure that if we're going to continue to try to do this more consistently again, that we are able to do it in a more quality fashion. And I think the way that our podcast is the most quality is whenever we're kind of shooting from the hip is not necessarily the right way to put it, but when we're actually having a conversation and not just being like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this?
No, I agree,
company
100%.
did this. This company did that. And then it gets to a point where you're reading. It gets to a point where you're just reading from a bullet list. And I would rather it be, something like you're talking about seems like a lot more fun, where you could be like, oh, I want to remake, I don't know, some game from whatever. And, it might be something that I don't care for. It might be something that I didn't even think about. So I think something like that would be a little bit more exciting than just spitting out the news. I think we should talk about the news on the show if it's relevant and it's important. But, I don't really want to necessarily sit there and talk about this fucking B tier publisher.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about that.
Purchased this, B, C tier fucking studio that only, 10% of gamers have heard of. Like, it's like, okay, I get it. It is valid. But you're
really
take away from,
I don't know. You're dropping the bucket down into the well pretty deep to pull that water up. So I mean, we need to stick with the things that get us excited that we can have conversations about. Unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of news or anything really worth talking about. And I bet if we had each watched the Last of Us 2 trailer, we would have something to say about it. But because of the leaks and because of all the stuff that happened, I think that you and I both agreed that we're just going to go dark until the game comes out. And I guarantee when we both beat that game, there'll be a spoiler cast. We'll do a huge content drop on Last of Us 2 and what we think about that game. No doubt in my mind. I believe, I don't know, are you going to get Ghost of Tsushima in July? Yeah.
I need to see more about it. I probably, because I buy all my games digitally anyway, and I have to imagine, unless the game is really bad for some reason, that it will have, there'll be review content up for that game online, like before it launches, at least a couple days. So I'll probably wait to make my decision until then, unless like something comes out. So where Ghost of Tsushima and Cyberpunk,
outside of The Last of Us 2, are the only other two games I'm really excited for this year that I'm aware of, unless something crazy drops. So I'm probably going to get them both. I'm actually really excited about them both. I think there's a lot to be said for both of those games and what they're aspiring to do. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. But The Last of Us 2 is definitely taking the cake here. You need to play Metro Exodus as well. So you need to get that game off of me or just buy it when it's cheap, because it's been on sale a couple times now. And honestly, if you and Sarah are looking for something to do outside of playing Jack in the Box or playing Descent with us, Life is Strange 2 is nothing to sleep on based on that first episode. I'm telling you. And you probably have the first episode because I think it was free with PS Plus at one point. So you can buy episodes 2 through 5 for like $14 right now on the store. So I highly recommend it just because. And another game I wanted to get back to playing and finishing was the end of Clementine's story in The Walking Dead, because I did play all the other ones, and I actually contemplated getting the souped up remastered version of all those games. But I don't know. I don't know that I have it in me to play through them all again. I would like to see Kenny again in that world, because he was a cool character. But outside of that, man, I don't know. But yeah, let's come up with a top 10 list, or a top 5 seems a little more digestible if we each have a top 5, or maybe we'll each do if we do a top, what if we each do a top 10, and then if we have enough crossovers, we'll whittle it down to games that we both had on our list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we should probably maybe try to start a little bit slower, probably come up with a top 5 for the show. But if you want to have some extras, to kind of in the bag or whatever, then sure, we can definitely, make sure that we do that so that we're not being like, oh, well, we both had 3 things that were the same.
Let's shoot for it, man. Let's do that. Let's cut it short. We'll talk sometime this week, early this week. It's already what day is it today? Monday. So we'll maybe tomorrow or Wednesday I'll get at you, and then maybe in your spare time too, maybe try to think of like what would be kind of cool for a top list. I think that there's a lot of potential with that. I mean, there's lots of different things. It could be something as stupid as like what we think are the top 5 bosses that are the hardest in video games, or that we had trouble our top 5 favorite endings to video games, top 5, whatever adventure games we think of, or something maybe like you said, or whatever. What games would we like to see remakes of or remasters of? Even though we just got done shitting on people not having new ideas, but it is kind of fun to see a remaster like they did with Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil. So it's kind of nice, especially when it's that big of a leap. Like if you're taking like an old Nintendo game and you're just going to remaster the whole thing and make it like modern, like what would you like to see? I don't know, man. Shinobi, right. Ninja Gaiden. I think they did have some Ninja Gaiden games, but all right, man, that's all I got. I didn't even have a closer for today's show. We're gonna have to just roll with this. Are you good for the show, man? You have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I'm good. It's kind of late. It's almost 9:00 here, so I had a long day at work, and I'm gonna have
and I'm gonna put some editing on this tomorrow, too, so the gaps aren't as awkward. I'm gonna try to find them and kind of close the gaps because I think there's some gaps in the audio. We'll see how Zencastr works whenever it saves these files for us. All right, man. Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for being on the show, Jake. And as always, like Shinobi. Come on.
Streets of Rage.
This is the best exit we've ever had. Shining Force. P.S. This is awesome.
You